Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of my data and data flow series. Let's just go over some more of these red block things. So last time I introduced you to, wow, that flew out of there, the variable, the numeric, and the logic variable. This time we're going to go over a little more of the operators that you can use for numbers. So read from your numeric variable, and you can plug it in here. So this is the round function. And what it can do is it can take a numeric input and it can round it to the nearest whole number. It can round it up, round it down, or truncate it, which means that, let's say, so round to the nearest whole number means that if it's 0.5 or above, it will round it up, and if it is 0.4999999, it will round down. Round up means that it will always round up. So if something is 3.1, it will say it's equal to 4. If something is 2.7, it will say it's equal to 3. It will always go to the next highest integer. Round down is the exact opposite. If it's 3.97, it will round it down to 3. If it's 4.8, it will round it down to 4. Truncate means you can chop it off after a certain amount of decimals. So if you want it to be only 2 decimals long, you want to only go to the 100th place, you can say 2 decimals and we'll chop it off right there. It will automatically round down to it because you're just chopping off those variables. Now let's look at something else. The compare. So now this will take 2 numeric inputs and give a logic output. See the pointy top? That means a logic output. So it will take 2 variables. Let's add another one in there, like Josh. Read numeric, like here. It will take 2 variables and then check this compare. So if these 2 numbers are equal to each other and it's under equals, it will output true. Or if you say not equal to and they're not equal to each other, it'll output true. Or if A is greater than B, then it will say true, but if B is greater than A, it will say false. Greater than or equal to, basically it's just checking to see if this is correct. If you click less than and A is actually less than B, it will output true. But if A is greater than B, it will output false. It's just another compare function. Then we have the last thing is range. So now you can check to see if a number is within a range. So if I want to check if foo2 is within 0 or 100, I would plug it in here. Or if I wanted to see if it was outside 0 or 100, if I said inside and foo2 is equal to 47, which is within this, it would output true. See how this has a pointy top? But if it was outside it, it would output false. But if I said outside and foo is equal to 47, then it would output false because 47 is not outside the range 0 to 100. And that's it for the numeric ones. Now let's talk about arrays. So we can define arrays over in our variables over here. Let's make a new one. Read from numeric array, and we'll add one. This we'll call it array. Easy. And then see how it has the double bump right here? That just means it's a numeric array. If it had 2 pointy tops, then it would be a logic array, but it has 2 regular bumps, which means it's a numeric array. And you can plug it into here, and then there are all these things you could do to it. So you could read at index, and reading at index means that it will take a array, and it will take a number, and it will read whatever is at that number. So if your array is 1, 2, 5, 7, and you want to read the first thing in the array, you want to put in 0, because how arrays are numbered is the first object in an array is called the 0th object. It will be at index 0, which you have to remember. It's important. It's not at index 1. What's at index 1 is the second thing in the array. The first thing is at index 0. So if 5 was the first number that you put into array, and you read from index 0, you would get 5. And see how this is a round top, so you'd get a numeric value. So let's actually define the array over here. Come on. Go to write numeric array. This is, yep, use array. You could add 9, 7, 3. It doesn't matter. You can add as much as you want. And so now with this, if I wanted to read whatever's at the 0th index, I would get 9. If I wanted to read what's at the first index, I would get 7. See how that works? But then you can also say write at index. So let's say I want to overwrite whatever is at the first index, which remember is the second thing in the array. And I would say numeric. I would say, okay, I'm taking this array, putting it in here. This is the index I want to overwrite, and this is what I want to overwrite it with. And so now, since that the first index, the second thing, 7, this would overwrite 7 and replace it with 10, and then output the new array. And so now, if I was to plug this into something else, it would be the exact same as the array over here, except that this 7 would be turned into a 10. Then you have append, which means that you can just add something to the end. So this is the array you put in, whatever you want to call it. Then this is what you want to add to the end. 10 or whatever. It could be any number. And see how it's a rounded top, so you could put a variable in there? It could be anything. And then you could output that new array. And then there's count, or length. And this just gives you the length of the array. And so if there are 3 objects in your array, it will give a length of 3. So those 3 objects will be the 0th object, the first object, and the second object, which is 3 in total. 0 plus 1 plus 2 is 3. And that's for arrays. And the same thing works for numeric arrays. It's the exact same thing. Now we can look at the random. So random, if you just want to generate a random number, you can say, okay, I want a random number between 1 and 10, or 1 and 100, or 1,000, or anything. And then it would give you a random number. That can be useful when you're doing some chance or other random programming. You can also do that with logic operators. And so you have to give it a probability. So this is your probability of rolling true. So right now there's a 50-50 chance you'll get true and a 50-50 chance you'll get false. But let's say I want there to be a 75% chance I get true. So now 3/4 of the time I'll get true and 1/4 of the time I'll get false. Just another useful tool that you can use. This is for text. So if you wanted to merge text together, like you had one variable here that was read text, you could output it like this. This sort of box top means that it's a text file. It's not a number or a logic. And then you can merge all those together and it would give one big file. It doesn't matter. That might not be too useful for FLL because mostly what you're working with is true, false, and numbers. And that concludes our data and data flow. Thank you for watching. Keep watching and keep creating.